President, Chief Innovation and Inclusion Officer, Lito of RCBC, and the CEO of Traction Tech Incorporated, Ms. Ann Quisha. This will be moderated by Grab Financial Group Philippines Country Head, Martha Borja.
Super social distance. You're a kilometer away.
I don't want to be more intimate, no. But first of all, thank you everyone for having us, for having FinTech Alliance today. We're very excited with a host of speakers and panelists that will be joining us. And of course, I'm very fortunate to have with me today two of the movers and shakers in the industry. We have Mr. Lito and Ms. Ann Quisha. So let me start. First of all, Lito, congratulations with last week's successful Inclusion and Digital Transformation Summit, or Index 2.0. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the key takeaways that you would like to share with us coming from that successful event?
Yes, in fact, we were quite fortunate to have that launching of quite a number of initiatives during the Index Summit 2.0 by FinTech Alliance in partnership with Enderun Colleges. And one of the key takeaways would definitely be more of how we can further collaborate, and at the same time, how do we now forge that alliances amongst players in the industry towards further promoting inclusive digital finance. And I think the good news is that of course we are supporting the government, specifically the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the Securities Exchange Commission, one of which is definitely the Digital Payments Transformation Roadmap, where it has two outcomes, or two goals, where the BSP would want that about 50% of 50% of retail financial transactions must be in the form of digital, and about 70% of adult Filipinos to be part of the formal financial system by end of 2023. And the good news is that we will be able to achieve those twin goals even before end of next year. So, and I think this is a feat where all the stakeholders were able to contribute to in terms of having to achieve these goals. And definitely, of course, during the Index Summit, we were fortunate to have BSP Governor Vidalia, of course, Secretary Mark Villar, who was the Senate Committee Chairman on Banks and Financial Institutions and Currency, and talking about the pending bill on digital assets. And we've been pushing for that in the Senate, and hopefully by next month, there will be a counterpart bill in the House of Representatives to be pushed by Congressman Joey Salceda. And hopefully within the 18th Congress, we will be able to have that, finally to have the digital assets law that would now govern all these players in the blockchain world. So hopefully with all this collaboration and cooperation amongst stakeholders, we will be able again to achieve that goal of being the blockchain capital of the world. Thank you.
I think it's really important that we focus on collaboration, and it's good to hear that a lot of these exciting initiatives coming from the regulators are happening soon. So we will look forward to that in the coming months. And Lito just mentioned, and we've been hearing this throughout the last few days, that Philippines, it is stated that Philippines is said to could be the blockchain capital of the world. So I just wanted to pick your brain, Anne. What do you think are the key milestones that we need to achieve as a country in order for us to achieve that?
Again, I'm an advocate of learning and education. That's why we've intentionally, purposefully built Cadena Hub. Cadena for our foreigners means chain. So Cadena Hub, we have that situated in Mindanao, where we build like a small academy, some basic short courses for our programmers, for our developers, whether they are our in-house or coming from others. That set of different sessions about blockchain, We do this on a quarterly basis, and we ensure that a lot of the other fintech startups around the region of Mindanao will have this capability. So if we involve more startups, encourage them to build even the slightest and simplest use cases of blockchain technology, I think that is one of the many ways that we can propagate this technology around. And so aside from the education, what we are doing is some sort of alternative, right? But we want that to be mainstream, and to be mainstream, to making sure that it is mainstream, we of course encourage that major universities, colleges would embed that as like major syllabus in the courses, or even in the secondary level of our education. So I think that's the first in terms of milestone. Second would be other fintech startups, even other technology startups would have at least some basic use cases. Don't be discouraged to experiment. Just continue to experiment what you can do, what you can build, whether that is decentralized, whether that's private blockchain or whatever. We encourage all of these tech startups to engage and experiment more.
Actually, just to add to that, to what Anne said, and I think going back to this Philippine Blockchain Week, which is first of its kind in the Philippines. This is the maiden event, and I think that's why we are recognizing the efforts of Donald Lim and team for really pushing this to make this a reality. And now we are here, and in fact, I've also met quite a number of foreign entities or attendees of this conference, and expressing huge interest in terms of them having to invest in the Philippines. So I would say that this Philippine Blockchain Week now becomes a sort of a road show where we are showcasing the beauty and the huge opportunities that the Philippines can offer to all our prospective investors to invest into the Philippines. And I think this is very much aligned with the government's vision of having to really push for a Philippine digital economy that is resilient, sustainable, and progressive. So that's why, again, we commend the Philippine Blockchain Week. Of course, we had this oath-taking yesterday of the Philippine Blockchain Council, and that is really meant to further educate the public as regards, again, consumer protection, which was actually further amplified by SEC Commissioner Calvin Lee earlier. So these are the things that the initial benefits of being part of the Philippine Blockchain Week. And again, congratulations to Donald Lim and team. Again, a round of applause for Donald. And
So we talked about a lot of the key pillars for us to achieve digital transformation, achieve financial inclusion. And BSP's Governor Medalla mentioned that these three pillars include digital payment streams, digital financial infrastructure, digital governance and standards, right? And as leaders in your respective industries, Lito and what are some of the key initiatives that align or support these pillars?
yes, I'll start with, of course, wearing my hat as RCBC now, just to provide some examples on how we are also supporting the government in terms of promoting inclusive digital finance. So, in so far as those three pillars are concerned, for example, what we have actually done thus far is the launch of Discarded, which is the Philippines' first multilingual app that is practically English in Cebuano languages at the height of the hard lockdown in July 2020. And also having to roll out RCBC Manibela Barangay Banking. The whole idea is to provide banking services, not banks, but banking services or financial services in every barangay, which practically now numbers about more than 40,000 of them. And as well as the RCTC ATM Go that is also the largest and the first in the country for the kapitbahay or neighborhood or community mobile POS ATM, where more than 60% of the transactions are disbursements for CCP Pagtawid Pamilya Pilipino program household beneficiaries. And in fact, for this market alone, we were able now to achieve a 4-digit growth rate year-on-year in terms of transaction value and volume, as well as exponential growth in terms of user base. And in just a matter of 30 days, from the time that we launched it, there were about 1 million app downloads in less than 30 days. And the thing is that even RCTC ATM Go, we're the only bank now that has the most extensive reach using that device, present in all 82 provinces. And in fact, for this, in terms of revenue, because practically when you talk about digital, the ultimate question will always be, is it something profitable, right? Especially in pushing for digital transformation. But I'm pleased to tell you that this is a case study where in the 5-year CAGR, revenue CAGR of one of our digital platforms called RCBC Digital, which is the mobile app for the mass affluent, we registered a 5-year revenue CAGR of 132%. And for ATM Go, which was also for 5-year revenue CAGR of ATM Go, it registered 83% 5-year revenue CAGR. And for this month alone, November, we will be able to record the highest transaction value or volume for RCBC ATM Go alone for the mobile POS.
Amazing.
That's actually 1.2 billion pesos purely from the barangays. I mean, and that's something that we are really very proud about. And also, in partnership with Grocery, we're able to onboard more than 20,000 sari-sari stores to enable them with a QRPH capability. And with that partnership, we will be able to push for 10x of the current deployment or activation or enablement this month to about 200,000 by next year. So again, collaboration for impact is critical for us to be able to promote inclusive digital finance.
Thank you, Lito. Ann?
Our modest efforts in trying to digitalize cooperatives has allowed us to reach at least 600 cooperatives today. From the last, we launched our DigiCo, the digital cooperative platform, during the pandemic, 2020, all during webinars and all of that. And we are able to convert their almost 500 physical branches that used to be some sort of a very simple cooperative center, now becoming a payment center and a logistics center. All through all these fintech products that we have launched. So that's our modest contribution in as far as digital and financial inclusion is concerned, as one of the major push of our government. And who we are covering is really the most challenging sector of the country in terms of being able to explain digitalization is something that's already challenging, and to enabling them to use digital tools is the next challenge. But we are seeing some sort of success, little by little, month on month, year on year. And I was just in a cooperative congress yesterday, where I spoke about the new technology that we have just recently rolled out. The first QR-based teller machine, which several dozens of cooperatives are...
This is CoopNet.
Yes, this is CoopNet, or Cooperation Network. This is not exclusive to cooperatives, but as the name speaks, it's Cooperation Network. This is also for rural banks and other financial institutions in the countryside who cannot afford the basic ATM. Since it's not using a bank switch or a switch of the bank, it's much more cheaper in terms of transaction fees and their capex and their opex. So that is what we mean by inclusive or inclusion. We democratize these technological tools and access to the payments and our NRTS be made available to any institutions. Again, our motto is always enabling the enablers.
Actually, just to add, I forgot to mention this. In fact, again, I think you may recall that was actually the biggest announcement made during the Singapore FinTech Festival. The investment made by Sumitomo to RCTC with an approximate amount of about $460 million US dollars, increasing their earlier 5% equity stake in RCTC to about to another 15%, making it 20% stake. So RCTC is now an affiliate of Sumitomo. And that is, in a way, a sign of confidence insofar as because of course, confidence insofar as having to push for digitalization in the company. At the same time, I think another sign of confidence is that the amount paid was actually 3x of the share price during the time that it was actually closed. And in fact, 1.5x of the previous 5% equity infusion. So this is again premium, and of course just yesterday, we also launched the first Bills Pay PH, enabling national billers to be able to put their QR PH codes, the interoperable QR PH codes in all their electronic statements of accounts or billing statements, where any bank or wallet that could actually scan those QRs can now be read, can now be able to be paid. And that was actually an initiative by the BSP. So all of these things would definitely redound to the benefit of the public, and again, within the context of us pushing for a Philippine digital economy.
Financial inclusion is very multidimensional. I'm sure everyone here would agree. But at its most basic level, it has to start with opening an account, right? And you mentioned, Lito, that we will be able to achieve by next year, well ahead of the target, reaching 70%. And we have to admit that some of our far-flung cities or municipalities have yet to be reached, right? There's no presence of branches or any brick-and-mortar bank to service their financial needs. What are some of the challenges? You've talked about CoopNet, you have this Cardec from RCBC. I'd probably twist the question a bit and explain to us some of the challenges that you see in achieving all of these far-flung areas in the Philippines to really promote financial inclusion and make sure that no one gets left behind.
Well, the number one barrier has always been data infrastructure. We all know for a fact that far-flung areas, they call it GIDA, geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas. These are the remotest barangays or sitios in coastal towns, rugged terrains, etc. And in fact, that has been one of the priorities of the PSP. In fact, if I can recall, there was an executive order signed by the former President Duterte on providing for satellite broadband for these communities, other than the major telcos that we have, right? But on top of that is that we are thankful that we are the first in Southeast Asia to have the Starlink of Elon Musk to be deployed in the Philippines. But that is yet to be deployed, yes, because that is in partnership with the ICT. And that's one. And second would be, of course, that has been one of the major barriers before, but I think until now it is, which is the full deployment of the national PhilSys ID, right? Because the problem now is that you have actually registered for national ID, but you still have that paper slip or the acknowledgement receipt. But that is not yet accepted if you are to be onboarded and to have a transactional account, because we still need that physical plastic that will be issued to you by the government or by Philippine Statistics Authority. So, and the third item is again education, right? Because there is still that notion by most of the special senior citizens or even in far-flung areas about how secure are we in terms of having to trust the system in terms of us putting our money inside practically the mobile device, right? So because you still have that fear amongst them that delayed transfers or in other issues. No? So again, education is key. That's why in the FinTech Alliance, it has always been our priority in terms of providing that awareness campaign in partnership with the regulators. And again, the issue on cybersecurity, the issue on all this hacking, phishing, smishing, etc. That has been part of the journey. That's why everybody in the industry is united towards that direction of us being able to provide that education or awareness campaign amongst Filipinos.
And look, I know Lito and I were talking earlier how committed you are and pretty much going all around the country, visiting a lot of these municipalities and cities. Tell us about some of the conversations that you have with these areas, as Lito pointed earlier, the GIDA. Yeah.
So first and foremost, the three major challenges that Lito mentioned, I am a witness to all of this. Like, first, the internet. I would go to as far as Kidapawan and some barrios in Kidapawan, and I would see cooperatives who's very efficient in what they're doing in terms of rice milling or rice processing, for example, and be able to provide loans to their farmers, to their farm managers, but they log their transactions in a blue logbook and index cards. I cannot believe myself when I saw it 2 years ago. And this is the only, the biggest barrier in digitalization is that infrastructure. We could really hope that our government, and I'm sure the ACT has had several programs in the past, even under the leadership of Sec Leo and now under Senator Gringo Honasan and the new Secretary Uri, right, Ivan Uri, in the propagation of the Wi-Fi connectivity or internet connectivity. So these are real world case. These are world scenarios that we can only imagine. Here in the metro, we are not experiencing. Everything is like theoretical for us. We could see this in some form of research data and some news, but we do not experience such a thing. But when you are there, you would see that, okay, how can we even talk about blockchain here? Everything is on in logbooks and index cards. So these are real challenges. The second that Lito mentioned would be still the identity. I went as far as some areas in Bukidnon where there are datus, like small chieftain and that governs certain municipalities and organizations in their communities. They would have these indigenous people without identification who could change their name today and the next week would be a different name because they lack that. To only introducer, the term introducer allows these indigenous people to have some sort of credibility with the small community, to be able to mingle, be able to borrow money, be able to have access to other financial services. That's through introducers. So the digital ID or our PhilSys plays a very, very important role. How can we be able to ascertain the identity of a person without that? And also, if I may add to that as my someone, not just the identity, but also the SIM registration. Because mostly, we cannot force bank accounts yet to this 40% of the Filipinos. But most of them would have cell phones. But that SIM registration is very critical in allowing, at the very least, have some form of identity, because most of the wallets are using mobile numbers as their accounts to the wallet, right, as for their financial access. So that's another key. And of course, this education. We encourage more startups not just to build tools, but to also have more means and tools to educate our people in wherever they are, whether they are in Cebu, in Palawan, or wherever. Take this opportunity to always educate our fellow countrymen about technology, because again, this is our way forward. There's no other way but to go digitalize the entire Philippines.
Thank you, Anne. In closing, I just wanted to maybe get your thoughts or a vision of how a financially inclusive Philippines will look like, or perhaps what the success look like. Whether this happens in the short term or the medium term, hopefully in the short term, that's the objective. But tell us your vision. What does that look like? Or paint us a picture.
I think my key takeaway here would be summed up to just one word, no? And that is trust. Because and trust, I would put an acronym to trust. I mean, that is technology that is responsive, universal, secure, and transparent.
Trust. Thank you, Lito.
Aside from trust, I would say people will have that if they feel secure. If the security in terms of regulatory, in terms of standards, infrastructure, protocols that we use, rules and regulations that we create in order to roll out certain products will be really in place, and people would have that confidence. And again, I'm not trying to be politically incorrect whenever I am with the banker, because I'm also a former bank. I'm also a former RCBC employee. But with the experience that I had with the grassroots, I would say being unbanked doesn't mean being unserved. They could be underserved, but that's why the rise of many wallets and giant wallets and other technology companies are here for, because we would like to address this gap in our society. And with all of these innovations that we are rolling out, implementing in the Philippines, we would like to really reach out to the poorest of the poor and be able to make them included, make them part of our financial services. Whether in the form of banking technology or wallet technology, we want everyone to be included. And I think that is only achieved when we have the proper protocol, security, and trust in what we do.
Thank you so much. And with that, a big round of applause from our panelists today, Lito and